We are going to discuss about e-journalism, electronic journalism today. So, this is quite important for you to understand. And in the initial few classes, I have already discussed about information literacy, right? So, that will definitely help you to understand. Information literacy will be helpful to understanding the nitty-gritties of e-journalism. E-journalism is basically known as electronic journalism. So, in this electronic field, even you see this radio, television also comes to play a role. So, when you talk about a digital journalism, that is a bit different from electronic journalism because digital journalism is a kind of it's a profession or a pursuit or a business which is also proceeded or also progressed with the help of digital technologies. You say the mobile technology or basically this internet technology. And that's how we could actually see some kind of differentiation in the terminologies which are being used. And then we have citizen journalism. Citizen journalism is a concept which is used across the online and offline spectrums of the news, irrespective of use of digital technologies or electronic technologies, because it has a much more broader definition. But at the same time, in recent era of advent of digital technologies and blooming technologies, we cannot even get rid of studying the role of citizen journalism in the digital era. And citizen journalism, the concept is a bit different from electronic journalism, digital journalism, because here in digital journalism, electronic journalism, or in car, you see the computer assisted reporting, you get to see the technology, the channel always gets the precedence, always get the like prime importance. But in citizen journalism, we actually see the role of the source and role of the reporter gets the precedence. Okay, so that's how we could differentiate it from citizen, and that shift that we are actually talking about from electronic, digital to car. So even that shift actually started from car. Car is basically a computer-assisted reporting company. It is actually a computer-assisted reporting, and I'm not telling you that it is internet-assisted reporting. I'm telling you it's a computer-assisted reporting. So the origin of car, if you see, dates back, it traces back to 1952 when computers are used for studying the result of the election. Okay, so basically computers are used to generate the output of these elections. So computers are used for studying the huge databases and data sets. Okay, so that was the first use of computer, as I have already told you, in this evolution of internet technology and evolution of computer in the last class. So you see that computer assisted reporting is all about use of computer, not necessarily the use of internet technology. So here computer is used to assist the reporting, and computer is used, databases are basically used by the journalist to compile any news report. Okay, and also existing records, government records or corporate records are also being studied. Various spreadsheets are being studied. Some technologies related to computers are also being used by the journalist in order to evaluate the existing records in the databases and also to find the output in computer assisted reporting. So when you say computer assisted reporting, we basically call it a database journalism. Nowadays, it is also a very newer concept, database journalism, and is very prolific nowadays. So everybody, every journalist and academician, you will see gets trained in database journalism. It is a bit different from earlier car concept. Earlier computers are used to even negate a hypothesis and also assist a hypothesis. When computer is used for research, is basically uh, uh, makes the essence of the computer assisted reporting. Computer is used for research, for journalistic purpose. Okay, so you also have some advantages of computer assisted reporting, as you could say that it is making the whole report much more accurate because you have lots of data available, lots of information available to even annotate, to reference, right? to link, because you study the whole background, you have that whole set of information, historical background with you. Huh. Which usually not the case in terms of journalism, because most of the journalists won't even study the history and background of any cases. When they go for reporting and reporting a hard news, they focus on the spot news, the on-spot event. On-spot event, they focus on some of the sources which could give them the information on spot. But when you talk about this computer-assisted reporting, that originated in 1952 during election time, when computers are used for evaluating the output of these elections. So poll results are being evaluated, and during that period of time, you can actually see there is also a shift in this use of the computer, as computer was used for, you see, this business purposes. As I have already told you, in India also it is used for accounting purpose, right? Indian Railway has used computers prior to coming of this internet technology for accounting, and you see this database purpose, keeping the record and the databases. And also you see, it is first used for finance and accounting purpose, and gradually it is moved to production, right? Production means computer during that period of time also used for production of the news, for wire editing is different from use of internet. Through wire news, usually all the news, different news and informations are being received by the journalist, and they usually edit it via computer. So use of computer for editing and for wire editing, that was another use of car. And then we actually see that is a production purpose, and then you see this information purpose when computer is used, when there are databases that are also made available in the spreadsheet, which are being analyzed by the journalist to get the gist of the story. And that's how computer assisted reporting came in. And there is also one person, he is known as Philip Mayer. Philip Mayer, I would also. Mayer and he one R. Okay, there are three names. One also Mayer, Edmund, Mayer, and also Edward Dusty. So these three names are associated with car practices. You see, these three names are associated with car practices. One is Philip Mayer. He was the first Pulitzer Award winner, who also did a reporting on the basis of using this computer. And perhaps I have already told you the Detroit crisis that happened during 1960s, and he evaluated an hypothesis that how many college going students and dropout have participated in that crisis. So, and he also got an evidence which has satisfied the hypothesis uh, that the number of college going students who have attended these crisis, that right crisis, is also equal to number of college dropout who have attended this crisis. So he also fulfilled that hypothesis in that way. So computer is used for research purpose. It is used for analyzing the data set. It is also used for evaluating the existing data set. So that's where the importance of computer assisted reporting comes. And then you can see this Bill Redman also wrote stories. He also another Pulitzer Award winner, working on computer assisted reporting, the working with the computer. And then this Ilya Jaspin is another name. So he was a reporter in Provincial Journal. So that is also another very interesting story he did based on research and analysis. So these are the three names basically when you come to look into this importance of computer assisted journalism. In India, we did not have many more cases of computer assisted reporting, but now we say that internet has assisted reporting, and that is a part of, you see, this e-journalism, electronic journalism, or even a part of, you see, This is called this digital journalism. But as such, we do not have a history of computer assisted reporting in India. Okay. And in computer assisted reporting, you get to see the role of SPSS, that is statistical packages for social sciences, and SAS, that is also statistical analysis system. These are the two softwares which are being used to evaluate the data sets. So basically, journalist's role becomes a researcher here. So there are some criteria or features to understand the computer-assisted reportings, and those criteria are: first is the reporting itself, which makes it different from the usual reporting and mainstream reporting, because you see this gathering of information with the advent of this net and digital technologies have been changed, completely changed, right? So we can gather information even through chat rooms. We can look into the chat room. Journalists can hide their identity in the chat room, which is not ethical, but at the same time, hiding this identity, own identity in the chat room and getting this information is a very day-to-day and everyday like approach for the journalist, and hence you get to see that this aspect of gathering information and reporting information has been changed, right? And second, we get to see presenting and reporting, gathering and reporting, then presenting and reporting information has been changed when information immediacy rules the rules. So when you talk about the immediacy, as I have been repeating the same thing here, journalists without verification will publish the information. So there is also a mechanism called publish then edit, instead of edit and publish mechanism of the mainstream journalism. So mainstream journalism first edit then publish, but here in online we publish it and then make it open, and also invite comments from users, audiences, and then we'll edit. So that kind of framework has uh, um, already ruled the whole reporting and presenting of information, and hence we get to see that that is one criteria that make computer assisted reporting at the same time a bit distinct from mainstream reporting, apart from use of technologies. So reporting, it happens to be the one sole criteria. Then we talk about this called research. Normally, journalists won't do any kind of research, but in computer-assisted reporting, you get to see the importance of research, importance of source interactions is very, very important. Anyhow, source interactions is more in digital environment. Instead of you see this traditional environment, you won't get to see sources interacting. So when you talk about the sources, you have numerous sources where you actually go to collect information, and source legitimacy is also important, and legitimacy is given by the public, given by us, right? So we actually legitimize the source whether it is credible or not. We legitimize based on our personal wisdom. We legitimize the source based on following someone else's wisdom, or based on this peer language and peer wisdom, right? Peer wisdom also helps us to legitimize the source. So public used to legitimize the source in mainstream journalism. In digital journalism, journalists tend to legitimize the source themselves. Okay, they think that okay, this is the information which we can use, which we can't use, because they do have that information literacy to use and not to use this information. So they have provided the legitimacy of the source. So source legitimacy is important. Here sources also interact with themselves. At the same time, you see how sources used to interact is that in contrast to this mainstream journalism, we get to see that journalists used to gather information through interview. So you need to set an interview schedule. You need to set some questions for interviewing in mainstream journalism. However, in the digital era, we don't necessarily set the questions for interviewing, right? What we usually do is that we let source also interacted, and source can be user also at the same time, and some sources which we have already collected from which we have collected some information, right? And also audience become the source at times by giving comments and also providing the add-on. So that has created an interaction between sources of, like, that producers and the consumers. And source interaction basically determines the interaction between the sources. editor and that reporter, consumer, as well as producer. So this is important to understand in even computer assisted reporting. Computer assisted reporting, reporting rules to roost, and reporting, and that too through digital medium, not digital, sorry, computer. Computer is there to help you out in reporting. Second is that you have that reference. Reference is important because each time you report you have some background information to refer to. So this computer assisted reporting is also known as annotative journalism, annotative journalism. Annotative journalism in the sense that each time you write something will also help you to annotate. Right. A note, you can provide a footnote, you can provide an end note. Some background information could be provided through hyperlink, right? So that is a part of internet and electronic journalism. But at the same time, you can also make a reference to this material because it is already available in the databases, although it is not linked and networked. So in computer assisted reporting, because you already have databases, computer is there to even extract out this important information, relevant information from a huge set of data, right? So whatever relevant informations are there, you use this SPSS tool, SAS tool, you use the spreadsheet and find out those information. Okay, so that is the role of computer assisted reporting. So even if computers are not networked, you have that information in your store because it is, and source is also there with you because data is already there, database is already there. So you can link it, you may not link it. If there is a computer, you can link internet, and it is computers are networked or linked, so definitely you can link it. If computers are not networked or linked, then you cannot link the source. But definitely, CAR is also known as annotative reporting just because it helps you to provide the footnotes and notes, and that's what it is known as. That's how it is known as annotative reporting. At the same time, computer assisted reporting. You say accuracy. It will also give you greater level of accuracy, and first retrieval of information, which is also possible as you already have those wire input, you have the databases with you. So there is a first retrieval of information. That is one of the benefit of computer assisted reporting. And second benefit of computer assisted reporting is that it has given you a greater level of accuracy, because you see in journalism accuracy is very important, and hence journalists used to go for discipline of verification. Journalists tend to go for verifying, cross-checking again and again the same information, examining the same information is being examined by many times so that they could understand the both side of the story. So covering the both side of the story is also very very important. And in annotative reporting, as I've already told you, it gives that multivocality. So it also takes to the like, numerous voices comes to play a role. Okay, so here that is also another one reference point. One is reporting reference, then research is very important, and you have the research tool also with the help of which you can research. And journalists tend not to research the story. They said that we have done research, but they don't have much time to research on a story. For hard news, they don't have time to research. They simply identify the sources. Who are the sources? And they go for elite sources. When you say elite sources, elite are basically, this government and corporate, and even this policymakers, and some distinguished sources, even the court and even the educations. There are some sources which are also named as an elite sources, and who can actually give you a better credibility and authentic information. But here you actually see that computer assisted reporting can bypass these elite sources also at the same time. And then we also see that it has provided a rendezvous spot. Rendezvous spot, there is a matter of 4R which actually characterize the computer assisted reporting. First is research reporting, second is the reference, third is the research, and fourth is the rendezvous spot. Rendezvous spot is basically the virtual community where you can participate and create a public opinion about it. So it is there in mainstream media, but that rendezvous spot is being created separately by journalists and those reporters or an editors by creating even a phone-in programs or a talk shows that has been created. But in like, computer assisted reporting, you get to see that if it is network, that rendezvous spot can be created straight away with that community. Like it's linked to that community through linking. So that is a basically spot to create an opinion about any news, any agenda. Okay, any agenda that journalists can set an agenda, and also they can even that reinforce and also repeat that particular agenda again and again, and makes it a media agenda and societal agenda. Okay, so it is important. So from these four are very important for computer assisted reporting. Then let me tell you about okay. Let me tell you about the e-journalism and digital journalism. Uh, Similar to computer-assisted reporting, digital journalism and e-journalism has one component, that is network. In computer-assisted reporting, not necessarily output is not yeah, will not be networked. So output will be analyzed with the help of statistical tools and computers. So computers use spreadsheet is used, even this MS Word is used once upon a time. Those were also some tools which help journalists to report and also to publish uh, first and like speedier way. Okay, so those were the tools which were used in 1952, then in 1970s, 1980s. You actually see this evolution of the reporting practices. You get to see those tools like a spreadsheet, Excel sheet, that Microsoft Office help journalists to report first, right? Nowadays, these tools becomes obsolete, right? So basically, when you say computer-assisted reporting, is all about using some of the tools about those SPSS packages, statistical packages for social sciences, and SAS, statistical analysis system, uh, in order to evaluate the databases which are being provided by this government or which are already existing. Okay, so it is our name in that way. Okay, and it is our name as a database journalism also because of its use of those softwares. But when you talk about the electronic journalism or digital journalism will be more appropriate for web practices, web-based practices. We also say it as a web-based journalism. So when output is being linked, that is what is web journalism, right? So here we actually talk about the role of wiki journalism and blog. Blog is not called as a journalism. It is a journalism apparatus, as you know, because blog is always questioned about its credibility. But when you talk about wiki, wiki has attained some of this authenticity by virtue of its role in disseminating this information, because wiki is use of wiki is not simply limited to inviting contribution from the users, from the peers. Okay, use of wiki is also limited. It has also expanded to contribute to citizen journalism. So here I am going to club these two things. One is digital journalism and citizen journalism. If you see, citizen journalism is also different from mainstream journalism. Again, I'll come back to digital journalism, but you see, when you say citizen journalism, they're different from mainstream journalism. How? Just because citizen journalism is not organized hierarchically and not institutionalized, and it can be carried by any individual, right? So citizen journalists are different from mainstream journalism because it is not even carried out by any public funded media, any commercial unit with an intent to even like serve the public interest, and which are also hierarchical and organized, right? So in mainstream journalism, we get to see these very features. Mainstream journalism is highly organized, and there is also a hierarchy in the news organization. As I have already told you, there are reporters, editors. There is also different desk there. There are different units are there. So you might have already acquainted with the newsroom practices. So you get to see that hierarchy is not seen in the citizen journalist, because a single individual can also report with the help of this mobile phone, with the help of internet technology, and hence you won't get to see that hierarchy. And then citizen journalists are not organized, but there are also some of the organized varieties of citizen journalism which we get to see. But that organized variety is a bit different from mainstream journalism, because it does not have an established code of conduct. When you say established code of conduct, means a code of conduct which is disseminated by press council. So we do have a code of conduct disseminated by press council: what to report, what not to report, not to use that violent pictures, violent images, right? And also not to use the name of the rape victim and all, right? So you have numerous rule sets, and not to incite any kind of communal violence, and even the community during the violence time. So not to use certain words like disabled word you cannot use, Harijan word you cannot use. So these are some rule set which are being used by the journalist, and which are also given to the journalist for use by Press Council of India. So there is an established code of conduct for the journalist to behave. So journalist is supposed to behave in that way. So in terms of citizen journalism, you won't get to see that established code of conduct. There are some code of conduct which are also maintained by that organized group of people. So you cannot even say that citizen journalists are not organized. There are some organized venture and endeavors we get to find nowadays in the form of Muktapit. Muktapit is there, marynews.com. These are organized venture, right? Oh My News, that is a slash dot com. Okay, these are some of the, you see, organized endeavors and initiative which are being taken, but there is no hierarchy as such. As I have already told you that gatekeepers have already changed its role to get watching. So you won't get to see that hierarchy in reporting. So editors can also at times they can report, to gather information and can report. There is no distinction in the role. But at the same time, you also see they also try to attain some of the features of the mainstream journalism in order to attain the credibility. Okay, but when you say that citizen journalism, how it is different from mainstream journalism, then you definitely will look into that citizen journalism is a non-hierarchical and non-organized platform, and which doesn't have any code of conduct, established code of conduct, doesn't have a history basically, doesn't have a history. You do not have a history of citizen journalism. At the same time, there is no work ethics or trade union. So journalist status is not determined, okay, because these are the free launchers. Their rights, their privileges are also not being discussed. So here in this working union of the journalist, we do have a journalist union which will take care of the journalist as an employers, also look into the privileges that journalists are having, the kind of expenses which are also required to spend for the journalist professions, right? And also you see the kind of yeah, the rights which are being availed at the workplaces, whether they are giving the duty, doing duty at night every day. That women are also doing the shifting duty and also doing duties at night. So that is also being, like, taken up by journalist communities. There is no toilet facilities for women in the newsroom. That is being also taken up by the journalist community. So basically you see that there is a trade union, or not a trade union which is there to protect the rights of the journalist. But here in case of citizen journalist, there is no union as such which will think about protecting the rights of the journalists. So that is the difference between the citizen and the mainstream journalist. You also get to see in terms of reporting, there is a huge change, and in mainstream journalism we get to see they do have a huge apparatus of camera, then editing apparatus are there. Whenever they go for on-spot reporting, they usually carry the van and all the equipments. Okay, it takes time also to report. But in terms of citizen journalism, you see that they don't have that huge like equipment and apparatus. okay, with them, like a van and all. They only have that mobile phone that is an high featured, that is a feature rich mobile phone. Hmm. High feature yielding mobile phone is there. So that mobile phone is sufficient for them to report on the spot, right? So that is also another difference. And the use of interview is a different, as I have already told you. Mainstream journalism use interview as a method of interacting with the source. But here in citizen journalism, you get to see that they don't basically use the interview as a method. So in citizen journalism, when it is clubbed to digital journalism, you see the role of that digital technology in providing the information, and that is called the crowdsourcing. So they usually get the information through the crowd. Even they won't even set some question to ask most of the time. They usually talk to those crowd and get pull out this information from the crowd. While reporting also they pull out the information from the crowd, and crowd become the source instead of the elite. Instead of elite, crowd become the source, right? So in that way, you see that citizen journalists are different from mainstream journalism. And also, citizen journalism has a contribution to development, unlike the mainstream journalism. So, when you talk about development journalism, citizen journalism has a role to work for the development of the people, and they will also work with the people at the same time. So, the first kind of venture of citizen journalism, I will also like to let you know that Lege Enquirer is the Lege Enquirer. Enquirer, in 1988. Although there is no history, so each time in academics we try to find out some of the origin and the past. We try to find out. Okay, so here that is an information which is found that Legion Fair first in 1988, um, as a part of civic journalism, uh, make use of that. That is make use of that journalism, uh, which is basically for the local people. Okay, so that is that came in 1988. When I talk about this Ledger Emperor effort, that is a part of civic journalism effort. Basically, they report about this local development and community development. So you also see citizen journalism is something which is also related to NGOs, it related to participatory journalism, related to public journalism, and related to civic journalism. So these are some of the concepts developed at different period of time in the USA, and we have also imported this concept and followed this concept. Which originated in USA. Basically, we talk about the civic journalism. It's a part of like journalistic responsibility towards the civics and civil rights and all. Okay, so when you talk about the civic journalism, again, this importance of local amenities, the kind of development in the local areas will always take precedence. Then any kind of national news, any kind of like political news. So civic duties is also very important. Civic duties of the journalist, and now we also get to see that there are some reporters. They are also working. That the fringe, all fringe reporters. They are working. They're doing like part-time reporting at the same times, and they are also working in school. Basically, they are school teachers, but at the same time engaged in reporting of the like local community. So he's also a part of civic journalism. So here in Assam, we usually merge all forms of journalism. You see that civic journalism, public journalism, citizen journalism, with mainstream journalism. But when we say mainstream journalism has an established code of conduct, and they do have a set of journalists who are degree holders actually, who are professionals. So when you say professionals, it is all about a matter of competence, matter of skills. Your competence and the skill will be different from, you see, different from the one which amateur, who is actually a citizen. Citizens are amateur, they do not have that competence, but they have seen, they have also found that okay, they are reporting in this way, this fashion, and easy to report. So that consideration that it is easy to do, it is easy to do any kind of volunteer work, easy to engage in social work, it is easy to report. Okay, because mobile phone is there, and we also know how to record, so it is easy to report. That kind of consideration, that kind of mindset has actually given birth to and also bolstered the citizen journalism at the same time. And hence it has also, you see, somehow reduced its credibility, just because of that consideration of easiness. Okay, it's easy to do. That has reduced the credibility of the whole citizen journalism. We also say amateur. Amateur don't understand. Amateur, be it a volunteer, be it a journalist, don't understand the vision, mission of one profession. Basically, they do not understand the strategies. But strategy could be adopted. Strategy of reporting could also be adopted, so you can understand, you can read one or two textbook, you can study. Okay, but you are not inclined to get into the pursuit, get to the pursuit of this news reporting. For what purpose you are actually reporting? To inform the public and to serve the public interest. Just because public interest has also been taken and studied differently. Okay, sensationalism becomes a public interest if a mainstream news editor announces that way. So definitely, you can also question the credibility of mainstream newspaper or news journalism. Right. So here, when we talk about the citizen journalism, it is basically it. Arised out of that it arose out of that civic sense. Okay, and civic journalism during that point of time when a group of citizens engaged in reporting about their locality, about the development of the locality, about different kind of news. They were not trained one, but they reported about the development of the locality, and that's how it is started. It has started. Okay, and then we get to see that with this advent of this digital technology, we talk about digital journalism, and many a time it is also said digital citizen journalism is there, right? So we have a blog. This is another platform to even boost that citizen journalism. So all this blooming technology will definitely boost and spread the citizen journalism. We have dale.ico.us, which will provide you to tag in now. Tagging the information, share and tagging the information. That is also kind of facilitating that, piece of information, not necessarily become making it become a part of paywall. Right. So when you talk about the paywall, your access to any news story is restricted. So here in citizen journalism, you don't have to come across any kind of paywall, because access is not at all restricted. Right. Because it itself will provide you more access to your emotions, to your subjectivity, more access to your capabilities. So that is important in terms of citizen journalism. Okay, so you see 1988 it usually comes. Then we have some benches like newsvine.com, that also another citizen journalism effort to invite entries from the users. So there are also different types of citizen journalism and digital citizen journalist. Okay, different types. Okay, that I'm going to discuss with you. So one is newsby.com, when they invite entries from users. That is a kind of citizen journalism. You also have simply tagging it and sharing it. That is also a kind of citizen journalism. You see that there is newsassignment.net is another venture where you get to see the collaboration and partnership of editor, journalist, and citizens. So that is also another kind of citizen journalism. So you do have like semi-independent citizen journalist and independent citizen journalist. So these are basically two categories of citizen journalists. There are journalists who are independent citizen journalists. Independently, they will also collaborate um, among each other for finding a story, reporting a story, and presenting a story. Okay, and there are also, you see, journalists who are semi-independent in a sense that they're affiliated to news organization, and to certain extent, like some of the school teachers who are engaged in reporting about the locality and become a part-time journalism. So they are semi-independent journalists. Okay. So there are also citizen journalists who are semi-independent, and certain journalists are there who are independent journalists. Just because independently they are running that organization, like a mainstream journalism, but there is no established code of ethics, but they have their code of conduct. They have their code of conduct, and that is important even to run an organization. So, at one go, we cannot even say that citizen journalism has no organization. It has an organization, but it doesn't have that hierarchy, but and doesn't have that established code of ethics. It has its own code of conduct, right? Okay. Then, uh, okay, then we also have some examples like so there are numerous examples. As you could see, that there are so you see that there are numerous initiative and venture of citizen journalism. So first you see across India we have that marynews.com that came in 2006, and it has initially it started with more than 50 contributors, and it has expanded. It has also um, won many accolades. Then we also have that CGNH Farah. This is a very important endeavor. So taken by Shubhranshu Chaudhary. You don't need to. You don't need to. That click a photograph. Okay, simply write down. Otherwise, I'll be giving you some PowerPoint also for that. Okay. So you see that Srijan Etsara, when we talk about this, this is a very important venture of even rural communication and rural journalism that was started by Subhranshu Chaudhary, in 2010. And that is a very pathbreaking assignment he carried out in Chhattisgarh and tried to empower the Chhattisgarh community by even facilitating them to even report, and also you see that the take part in that in rural journalism. You see that came in 2010. This is basically a portal. Season Echwara portal is there, and he used to train the rural people to even report. And rural people can, rural villagers can also report on the stories or anything that has affected their life related to MG Andrega, that is also Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Schemes, the inaction of these government officials about any kind of inactivity, any kind of you see this issues related to absence of teachers in the school. That has happens to be a very core issue in rural India, because in rural areas, and also their poor qualities of healthcare services are being reported by by the journalist, the rural journalist. Basically, rural journalists are the villagers So villagers are being trained by this team of CJ Nechwara to report, and they also report through a phone call. Okay, and they report through a phone call, and they can also access the report through IVR, that is a IVR, that is a integrated voice response system, through which they can also access to the report. Okay, and what the journalist in the CJ Nechwara used to do is to moderate and filter the report um, uh, which are being coming from the villagers. Okay, so in that way, you see, this is entirely digital journalism endeavor. So Subhranshu Chaudhary and his team is training these people to report. They simply make a phone call and report about an issue, and that the phone call is being moderated now, moderated to an extent without losing the credibility, so that the voice clarity is there. And the issue is also being highlighted, about which he or she has made a report, and accordingly it is also broadcast. 3 minutes phone call of our villagers is being broadcast like that way, in the same fashion, with little moderation, to amplify the voice, to amplify the issue. Hmm. So that he usually does, and also whenever a literate person used to report in that portal, he used to provide a text summary. It is usually comes along with the text summaries, usually comes along with the report. So that is being done by that team. Okay, so it is a very very important intervention in mobile journalism at the same time, so which has also given a voice to the voiceless. It is also a kind of endeavor, which has given voice to the voiceless, and also it also that promoted and a framework from free space theory, because libertarian theory basis for everyone. Huh. And also shows the social responsibility role of the press. Okay, so what happened that in 2010 this venture was started, and by you see 2015, within a span of 5 years, they usually have more than 70,000 stories reported in that particular portal. And initially they had a target of getting 140 calls in a day from the rural peoples and the villagers, and those calls are being moderated a bit. Whatever calls are being coming from the rural people and the villagers are being moderated, and then they put it. Okay, and the stories are also written by them at the same time, because most of the villagers are also illiterate, and they simply illustrate the issue, and it is also reported by the trained journalist in CJ Nechwara, and trained in the sense not necessarily they have a journalist degree, but out of experience they become trained. In that way they have also facilitated the citizen journalism movement with the help of a portal, online portal, and a like you know and a mobile phone, right? So that is a very interesting case study even. Okay, so you could also do something like that sort. So you can bring and pulling out the voices of this rural people, and you can simply post it in the net. Okay, so reporting online is not that different, let me tell you, from mainstream journalism. We are making it different. We are making it different just because we tend to differentiate these, say, state charge divide. Okay, so that divide happens to be there. Say, state charge divide was there. So that is pulling out the search from the state. That means you separate the religion from the state. That is one principle for maintaining the order in any kind of civilization. So that state church divide happens to be one principle which is being followed by news organization, mainstream news organization, and that's how they separate advertising from editorial piece of reporting. So advertising is being completely separated from editorial piece of reporting. So but that is a separation of state search, and the way we separate the religion from the state. If religion and state are mingled together, we can actually get to see a intensity of communalism which goes higher and higher. Right, and hence this is also a principle for self-ordering and ordering of the society, and this is followed by the newsroom for long, by mainstream news organization for long, which has somehow dwindled and somehow reduced with the help of digital technologies. But here I will also tell you that web journalist is not that different. It is we who made it that different. But by using lot of subjectivity, I also embrace the subjectivity. But the principles which we have been following is equally important to follow for the web also. We have been following for mainstream journalism, for impartiality, discipline of verifications, independent source, and all. It's very very important. Okay, for even web-based journalism. Although we do have a pack mentality in website, maintaining a website, or also you see for web news or web journalism. What is happening? You understood? Okay. So then you see the Muktapit. Muktapit is also another kind of citizen journalism venture in Marathi, basically Anand Agashe, who started this initiative. And there is also a Sakal group. Sakal group initiated the citizen journalism portal Muktapit. And there are different columns, and two important columns is Sal and Mantil. Sal and Mantil. Sal is basically that is also that is depth of emotions, and Mantil, I actually forgot that Mantil, what does it represent? So Sal and Mantil, important columns, and numerous columns which could also be written by the citizens at the same time. Okay, so that is another important venture. So many news, Vijay Netswara, and also you have that Muktapit are some of the Indian initiative in citizen journalism. And in Assam also we get to see that we have assamtimes.org, that is actually run by Google Gogoi, trained around 200 citizens and the users, and they're also working in citizen journalism. Northeast News has also another citizen journalism branch. Okay, we have also eSmall too, that is also reported with the help of the mobile phone and internet technologies. So, not a mainstream news site, basically a citizen journalism site and mobile journalism site. So, you see, like that, we also have Hemad, my Hemad.t, it is also Germany based citizen endeavors. Then Oh My News, it is also Oh My News is a open communal kind of initiative. Okay, so there are a lot to discuss here in citizen journalism as well as mainstream journalism, and when you try to club it with the digital journalism, the whole journalism has been expanded. Okay, there are a lot to study. So, if you have anything to say and to contribute, then you can come up and say instead of doing the good to go. Yeah. And if you have any queries, then you can raise. Okay, it is fine. Now, uh, there are also pros and cons of mainstream and citizen journalism. You could identify pros and cons. That is uh, leaving up in you now. I'm leaving it up in you. Now, what is important is digital journalism again. In digital journalism, we have that wiki and blog. Okay, one is wiki technology, which is very very important technology to understand the digital journalism. Apart from the website, apart from the CMS tools like a blog and all, we also have a wiki technology which came in 2001. Right. And this wiki technology has already popularized the Wikipedia, Wiki News, Wikitorial, etc. etc. Okay. So by 2001 and 2001, we actually get to see the importance of wiki technology, wiki web. And first, uh, by with the help of that Newpedia that came into being, and then they have another initiative, which also they had that initiative called Wikipedia, which started in 2003 or 2002, right? Like that way. So you see that when I talk about the Wiki News is basically a participatory news. Now let me tell you that when you say participatory news, it has got different variations. So which will ensure citizen to participate in it. So in a participatory news, citizen can participate in the input stage, citizen can participate in the output stage, citizen can also participate in the editing process. Okay, and citizen, there is also a centrality of news organization which is highly closed. And also you see there is a supervised gate watching, that concept is there, I will come into it, in participatory news organization. And there are types of participatory news. As a part of digital journalism and citizen journalism, we have thin news website, thin news, that is thin news are known um, by example of this newsletters, email newsletters are thin news. Okay, we have personal broadcasting sites like podcast and blog are personal broadcasting site. That is another variation. Then we have collaborative contributory news site like slashdog.com, and you see that Wikipedia, basically Wikipedia, Wiki News. That is a collaborative contributory site. And then we also have independent news site like omynews.com and marynews.com. That is an independent news site. So you can see there are some variations of citizen journalism and digital journalism. And when you understand its participatory nature, when you say participatory journalism, that enables citizens to participate in journalism is called participatory journalism. Okay, and there are also different types of participatory journalism. One is personal broadcasting, another one is print media, I'm repeating the same. Third one is contributory and collaborative journalism, and fourth one is independent news site. So there are numerous independent news sites. So you get to find they are running independently and they are open communal. All these independent news sites are open communal and to certain extent open exclusive. And this is also like this kind of definition and conceptualization can be made, can be comprehended the way they use one particular technology and at what level the user can intervene into that news, at what level. That will define this type and variation of the journalism. Okay, so at what level as a user you can intervene into the news report. So, as I have already told you, there are two variations, semi-independent and independent in citizen journalism. Right, there are two variations in citizen journalism. One is semi-independent and independent. And here, on the basis of your involvement and on the basis of the using of this technology and on the basis of the attribute of the news, you can uh, uh, understand, you can comprehend the type of the participatory journalism per se, say digital journalism. Okay, so when we talk about the that independent news, that is open communal, and how wiki is being used, let me tell you that there are some varieties of wiki like crowdsourcing wiki is there, supplementary wiki is there in wiki. If you have any question you can come up with. Then you also have that called open source wiki. You also have a logistical wiki. Okay, so open source wiki, when you say open source itself is a terminology for digital journalism. Okay, even wiki journalism is also called open source journalism. Why it is open source? Because that news and information are sourced by the crowd, and with the like help of that open source technology called wiki. And open source terminology came into being with this advent of the open source movement, that is a software code uh, of any software packages is being shared online, which could also be changed, modified and corrected by any user. You get to see that proprietary softwares, which are also available. You have been using all this proprietary software. So these proprietary software are not available for users, for consumers to even make any change, right? So user cannot even change the source code. But there are some open source Linux based softwares are open source software, so which are also made available online for users, for anyone who is not producing and developing that particular software can edit it. So from that very concept, this open source journalism also came in. And hence we can also see that open source wiki is a kind of wiki or open source participatory journalism. So any kind of news house we could get to see open source participatory journalism and open source wiki. Not necessarily that each and every newsroom will accommodate wiki technology. No. So some news website might accommodate wiki technology. Some news website or news house, use a media house, might not accommodate wiki technology. Okay. So those news house, media houses, which will accommodate the wiki technology, might produce an open source technology. Open source in the sense that it is entirely be dependent upon the, like, the topic, the subject matter, the content, everything will be decided by, by crowd. That is open source. When you talk about the supplementary wiki, in supplementary wiki, you actually see that that the user's role, or you see the citizen's role, and even audience will simply supplement a part of the report to it, any kind of part of information to the already produced report in-house. So report is being produced in-house, and this is also a kind of managerial decision on the part of the newsroom when report is being produced in-house, and also asking for audience review or audience incorporation. So audience may, or audience readers, users can incorporate their point of view to the already produced report in-house, is known as supplementary wiki or supplementary participatory journalism. When the role of the user is to supplement the original piece. Okay, so they can participate in the reporting stage or in the input stage. Hmm. And then we also have a second draft wiki. In a second draft wiki, the draft is being prepared in house. Okay, and then it is being reviewed basically. It was also made open for the users to review the draft, because the story ideas came from the user. Okay, sources also, you see, all the source, all the information about any incident, any event also come from the users itself, but it is written by the journalist, thinking or considering that the users are not capable enough to write an objective piece of news, and hence it will be edited. It will also be it will be not edited. It will be it will be compiled and written by journalist, and it will also made open for the, you say, users and audience to review it and also to draft it. So that is called second draft duty. So like that way, you see logistical wiki is also there. Logistical wiki and logistical participatory journalism is something that is entirely generated by the technologies. So without technology, you cannot even generate this kind of a piece of reporting. Okay, so you can invite hundreds of contribution. So hundred of posts. Suppose that wiki news itself is a kind of logistical wiki. Wikipedia is a kind of logistical wiki. So it invites entries from hundreds of the users, and then it will produce a finished version. So that is what is logistical wiki and logistical participatory journalism. Okay, like that way we have this four varieties of participatory journalism apart from this personal broadcasting site. Then we have that thin media and that independent news, and we have and contributory news sites. Right. And when you talk about Wiki News itself is different, because you actually see that in Wiki News, you get to see in the last class, I have already told you that there is also cumulative increment of the knowledge. Cumulative increment of knowledge is has characterized the Wiki technology. So wiki technology has certain characteristics, like it has a very simple hypertext markup language, so it can be mastered by anyone. So anyone can learn that simple hypertext markup language, within which you can fill the field. Okay, you can write. So there are some open field where you can fit and you can write. Okay, so that is a simple hypertext markup language is there is one attribute of wiki technology. Second attribute is that versioning is there. So versioning in that sense in many technology won't give you that provision of looking into the previous version of the story. So wiki technology will give you that versioning effect that you can look into the previous version of the story. Even if the newly edited version or newly written version is being vandalized and being deleted, you can refer back to the earlier version at the same time. And hence versioning effect is there. One is permission. We often say that in collaborative news website, we won't get to um, uh, go for permission. We won't need to look for permission from the users and editors. Nobody's permission is required. But wiki technology has also attained some of the mainstream journalism features in order to make it much more credible, and hence they have also put in use the permission mechanism that user control is not given to each and everyone. It is given to them who has already contributed 15 articles to that wiki site. Even that is the norm has been followed by Wikipedia also. If you have contributed 15 articles to Wikipedia, so you are allowed to even edit now. And you are given this user control, allowed to edit, allowed to even submit a password. And those who have password can even edit. So those who do not have password cannot edit. That is also a kind of control mechanism. So many contributory and also collaborative site has been maintaining. Okay, uh, and edit summary is there. Edit summary or text summary is there that you get to find in wiki that you can make a summary of whatever being written in one story or one writer. So in that way, you have as a user, you have some idea about what is being written by another contributor, another collaborator. So because edit summary is being given, that could also be seen. Okay, so these are some of the features, attributes of even this wiki news and wiki technologies, which help you to understand the digital journalism. But digital journalism is much more than wiki, because it is all about interactivity, hypertextuality, and hyperlink. Okay, and now when we associate it with citizen journalism, then you need to find out the role of civic journalism, role of reporters and also users and you to report for development with the help of mobile technology, with the help of internet. So that you can do. This is a kind of assignment for you also. I'm also giving you. You take any issues, development issues, which will be reported with the help of mobile phone and will be uploaded in a blog which you might have created, I guess, by now. Okay, so you work on any developmental issue, so you can report a story, but you cannot even download any photograph or online. That report should be very raw on your part. So you also find stories and find some bits in your locality. So any kind of developmental story that construction is also going on, you can have a story on that constructions and their livelihood, the livelihood of those construction workers. Okay, you can write a story, you can have photographs, you can post it in a blog. Okay, so I'll go through it and I will also help you to come up with a finished version in that way. So that will also be an exercise of that web journalism part. Okay, it's fine. Okay, then I'm signing off.